Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, we have with us, joining us from France, Stephane Thanasack. Hi, Stephane. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasco. Hi, everyone.
So Stephane works with Agile clients in France, where he lives. He's also the co-founder of Nowshak, a consulting company helping organizations in their transformation journey. And he's also a certified professional coach by the International Coaching Federation. Stephane, that was a very short intro, of course, but tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Well, Vasco, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure. I started about working in an agile environment around 10 years ago. And let's be honest, before that, I have a confession to make. I was a project manager, right?
Me too. I know how it feels.
I'm not ashamed, but I was. And one day, at some point, it doesn't make any sense when you wake up and you look in the mirror and you feel that the same mistakes are repeating themselves. Your customers, they still ask for more, and for you, and as for myself at the moment, at that time, it wasn't making any sense anymore. And I had the chance to start as a Scrum Master in a big program for an energy industry in France. And we started the journey by ourselves. It was a small 5 to 6 people in the team, and I started as a Scrum Master all alone. That's how it happened.
Absolutely. I'm sure that many of our listeners can relate to that. The first Scrum Master role can feel rather lonely, especially if you started 10 years ago when not many people knew what Scrum even was. So, Stephane, of course, that journey led you to a lot of experiences, some better and some more difficult. And today, because today is Monday, we are actually going to talk about the difficult moment in your career as a Scrum Master. We want to hear a story of a moment of failure. And we want to do that, of course, because we want to explore the insights and the learning we can get from that story. But before we jump into that, do tell us that story. Walk us through, step by step from the beginning, what was happening.
Yeah, it was quite threatening. I was in a big agile transformations with many coaches. And at that time, we were trying to help the business get into the agile transformation as well. And at some point, I was asked by some manager to help facilitate a meeting to present their target operating model. And during the meeting, after 10 minutes, some man I don't know at that time started yelling very, very, very violently to me that what is this kind of consulting? We are paying as a company as that at that type of coaching. This is not acceptable. And there were about 20 people in the room. So obviously, the emotion I felt at that moment was quite a mix of anger, shame, and I froze. At that time, I froze. In my head, things were so confused. What should I do? Attack? Do nothing? Just listening? And options were overwhelming my mind. And I did nothing. So I had to debrief that with another friend coach. And he said to me that it was totally human to be like that. But I really felt powerless, let's say that, and very fragile at that moment. So it was a big moment of failure for me because I was supposed to power up, the transformation. I was not ready for that. What I learned from this story is that you're never ready for those kinds of situations, and that's why I started a new journey to learn how to coach people as a professional coach, and that's when that journey started for me from the inside. So from that failure, I learned that in fact it was not the situation or the angry manager in front of me that was the problem, but maybe my inability to face those kinds of situations, and I had to work on myself to be able to change that.
Of course, that's a journey, as you said, that started at that moment, and you learned to be a coach, or you started practicing and eventually became a certified coach. And one of the things that comes to me, though, is that maybe that situation was really extreme. Like, it's not often that people start shouting at you publicly with lots of people around, but other difficult situations can happen, right? Like, and for us as Scrum Masters, that could be a stakeholder in a review meeting, kind of pointing out maybe disappointment or anger, frustration with what the team delivered. It could be a tester blurting out because the developers aren't listening to him or her. It could be a developer blurting out to a product owner because the product owner isn't providing what they need. Like, it could be many things, right? So moments of tension and moments of stress are very common in the course of a career for a Scrum Master. And of course, you said something that is very important. You understood that the journey was yours, right? So this was the failure, and now it's my journey. Like, how do I learn to deal with these situations? And I think this is very important because you took ownership of what had just happened. So let's help our Scrum Masters out there take ownership of those difficult moments. What can we do? What have you learned in your own experience, Stephane, that helps you now, today, with all of that experience behind, take ownership in those critical, difficult situations?
That's a good one. Sometimes we think that we need to add something to a situation in order to be the solution. And the more I experience different situations, the more I see that maybe some Scrum Masters, they tend to be over present or over feeding the team, or over giving tools, or over managing the situation. And maybe the first step should be thinking about, what can I do less? What can I subtract from the situation that I do that would improve the situation, maybe? It's the famous less is more. And I think we need maybe to ask ourselves, would it be a possibility for me for this kind of situation that I'm facing currently with the team, the organization? What less could I do to improve the situation?
Absolutely. Now, I'm thinking one of the things that we could do less of is react, right? One of the things I learned a long time ago studying physics is that for every force, there's a counterforce, there's a reaction, right? And the same happens with people dynamics, right? So if something happens, like somebody explodes, the natural reaction would be to explode back, to defend ourselves by attacking the other person. But that's adding to the situation, right? Mm-hmm. How could we as Scrum Masters act in that mode that you just said, by subtracting, by removing? Like, what would that look like in practice in your mind?
Maybe first understand the emotions inside yourself. Find out what kind of emotion you feel at that moment, and how does that affect your thinking, your doing, and your feeling as well. And once you listen inside, maybe you can adjust to what is outside. As you said, you don't want to add oil on the fire. Maybe just let the fire burn and die away. So maybe that could be the solution. First, find inside the solution before going outside.
Absolutely. And a great reflection tip from a coach. Thank you for that, Stephane. Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.